Elimination for one of these two teams after a best of 3 between these squads. The Kaolin Wardens have been down in the losers bracket for the entirety of this tournament, just about it feels. The Gilded Gladiators just now making their way down after their loss yesterday. It's J-Mac, Miff, and Doug bringing the action for game number 1. And we saw this from the Kaolin Wardens before, where they tried to maybe get a 5-man gank onto somebody who came up and tried to throw a stray ward up there, but maybe, at least for the wiser end of the Gilded Gladiators, nobody going to walk up and grab anything there, so it'll be back to standard starts for the Wardens.
You know, I really do like some of the adaptations from the Gilded Gladiators in their draft. Looking at how they've built out here, previous compositions, J-Mac, were really built around late-game team fight. Let's play with Hunt Bots, Ultimate, get some standard mages, some late-game scaling, magical hunters as well. DMB looks best on standard hunters. I think that's the conclusion I've come to there. So getting him on Ishtar, a lane bully, I think a very smart adaptation. But primarily, I had concern for the solo lane of the Gilded Gladiators. Scary D historically has been playing in the Pro League, I believe, since Season 2, and has always been the sit on enemy tower line, proxy waves early game, very susceptible to gank style player. Leon this entire tournament has refused to rotate to dual lane and has instead kind of formed up with Slash into this 2-1-2 meta. I thought maybe Scary D could fall prey to some very early ganks, but Camazotz with Bat Out of Hell, incredibly survivable, high sustain, thanks to all of it inherent to his kit, Vampiric Bats, one of the major proponents of that. I think if Leon sticks around solo for a real long time, could allow Kirmi free reign on the map elsewhere. Whereas the Kaolin Wardens, they just got Leon on Mercury, standard win condition for them, a late game hypercarry, and they always funnel the farm his way as well. I mean, this start, it has something that he has devised just to make sure that he's hitting level 3 legitimately at the 50-second mark.
Yeah, Leon will solo out the 2 camps on the left-hand side after doing the quadra camp split and the right side jungle, which to me, I mean, we're a month into the season, and it's still mind-blowing just watching that start every single time. The dance with all of the buffs dropping around, making sure that you pick up the right one. Scary D, not the early start that you want, but Slash just doesn't have any cooldowns to continue to chase. Now Snoopy in danger. It's Leon level 3 on the Merc. A crash out from Snoopy. A couple more autos.
Way.
And Leon just walks down Snoopy in the mid lane for first blood for the Wardens.
Well, a lot of the analysis I throw out in the first minute seems to go by the wayside. Scary D under threat of death early on. And it's Leon not in the soul lane, but rather in mid, just catching out Snoopy. Too far up in that lane. Have to play aware of the enhanced movement speed that shard gives over to Leon, the 40% additional attack speed as well. Just massive burst potential. That level 3 start for Mercury seems to have caught Snoop off guard. Fortunately, Yu Huang very safe. Once he gets back to lane, I don't think he falls prey to that again.
Beats by Leon to get away from the freeze of inbound. 3 versus 2. Inbound is low, but the dash is already down from Leon, and the meditation through is enough to keep Bobby alive. But DMB gets his dash caught, and the beads are already used, but another wall comes through. And inbound to save not just his life, but also his carries.
Leon's flipped the script. He's in the duo lane, and we're only 2 minutes in. finding pressure all the way across the map. DMB and inbound going to be playing catch-up for a little while, at least in the HP pool. That gives over a great opportunity to Tuba and Oceans to keep up their aggression. That Chiron, now with Giddy up, a massive threat to DMB. Pull him back, no beads, no answer, no meditation from inbound to keep him sustained. Leon, though, he's hovering nearby, locks eyes with Bobby. Now it's time for the disengage.
Wall is there, but inbound needs more than just the wall. It needs to find a big freeze, but it's only on the one target, and that was Tuba, who will pop his beads and charge forward with the rest of the squad for yet another kill for the Kaolin Wardens. Slash going to lose out on his blue buff on a rotation from Kirmi, but Kirmi is only level 3 on this Awilis so far. Elion, even with spending so much time in the dual lane, still level 4, and even going for a purple buff invade doesn't go successful this time. Just those lightning shots from DMB able to secure that one.
Man, a complete shift up from the Kaolin Warden's standard procedure. Oh, just an inverse, really. It still is side lane emphasis from Leon. This time, though, around the duo. Tuba has been left alone on an island for the majority of this event. Has been vacated. Oceans leaves at level 5, never comes back. Leon hovers around the solo. Maybe a bit of a pump fake, hiding the strategy, sandbagging a bit that dual lane throughout the rest of the event. Now up against the good Gladiators, showing that they're able to diversify their playstyle throughout the early. It's on the Gladiators now to adjust. I'm sure they've done a whole lot of homework on this matchup, probably planning around Leon to be around the solo. Instead now, it's all about pressure everywhere. Kirmi, yet to get active, has hit his first power spike. Jotun's Wrath in first slot should give him advantage over Leon in the fight. Certainly more damage output, the CDR, keeping that Feather Step available more often than not. If Leon now decides to, could hover the jungle. Golden Blade really is the I farm faster than everybody else item in the game. Just AoE autos, helps you out with mana sustain. Very important here. Could even just wait out for a little while, play around the neutral farm. Everybody on the Kaolin Warden's playing with a slight lead.
Maybe go for that hyper farm mentality, given that Golden Blade is finished up and he can clear so effectively, as you mentioned. Kirmi, not sure where he's running around. Maybe just dropping a ward to keep side onto where Elion is rotating through the jungle, as you do see that Elion passed over a ward that Kirmi had placed by. Unfortunate for Kirmi, he's also standing on top of a ward, so Tuba knows that he's lurking by. So Tuba will have to sit under the tier 1 tower, though, with DMB and inbound at his tower line already. That probably wasn't going to change just for the fact that Kirmi was waiting by. Scaredy over in the soul lane. We were talking about maybe some of the picks that he would go, some of the build paths you could do with the Camazotz. He's going at least a first full item damage in that regard. You got to imagine Transcendence probably on the mind for the solo.
Scary D loves damage output in the early. Kirmi hates what's happening to him. Caught out and locked down. Leon affecting his 3rd kill of the game so early. And on timer to potentially look towards the purple buff immediately afterward. Look at the vision control from the Kaolin Wardens on the left-hand side. If they find another pick here, Gold Fury certainly on the menu.
Well, Oceans doesn't get the belch off fully for the stun, but another purple buff invade. Elion will take that one cleanly. DMB expends the ultimate to try and secure it, but not able to get anything. Instead, Oceans will jump away, and on the right side, speaking of Scary D, he and Slash having a little bit of a bout between themselves, but all the sustain that Scary D has in his kit just brings him back up to about 2/3 HP, and he'll be able to continue sustaining over here. But it just felt so unfortunate for Kirmi. He had the jump angle, but the RNG that Joshi has on this Baba Yaga kept a silence pool right at his feet.
Just an unlucky turn of events for the jungler, the Go to Gladiators. It's about bounce back now. Wheelish, still very powerful. Really good in the early game. Can make up for a slight deficit so long as it doesn't get too out of control. This next item for Leon, I think, would be the first major inflection point. The inflection in power ranking between these two jungler selections. Wheelish cannot match the crit output of a Mercury. So gotta play now. Has some lanes you could really start to rotate through. In particular, Ocean's very susceptible to those ganks. The Dest did a great job bringing it up. Maybe not the most knockups on the side of the Guild Gladiators. If Kirmi wants to do it himself, it's really up to him. Maybe Snoopy, but that's a very small knockup from the Celestial Flight. Otherwise, you're just waiting on those leaps from the Kaolin Wardens. You're not really punishing Slash. If he's got the ultimate available, that 2nd HP bar makes it so difficult to actually shut him down. So instead, I think Bacchus, a decent target. Joshi, you can burn those beads. Otherwise, it's just damage output from the Wheelish. I wonder if the Gilded Gladiators maybe decide to move in towards Sunder just to address Slash's ultimate.
Well, Slash being jumped on. Will jump away, but gets pulled back by Kiermi, but so much HP on that shield, even at some of the lower ranks of that ultimate. And that's enough for Kiermi and Scary D to back away from their attempted kill onto Slash. But more cooldown in the kit for Kiermi to try and come back and maybe go for that same pull in just a few seconds. Meanwhile, left side, inbound will find a wall against 2, and will use his ult to immune the stun from Oceans.
Easy disengage now. Leon continues his new playstyle of hovering around the duo lane. Any pick now could very easily lead to this Gold Fury, even potentially thinking about pulling it. Bobby should spot it out. Is pulled by the Kaolin Wardens, and immediately the Gilded Gladiators get eyes on it.
Elion goes right on top of Kiermi. No beads available. The knockup is good, and one more auto from Elion. A killing spree for the Mercury. An inbound with nowhere to go. No ultimate to save him. It's a pick for Joshi. And the Kaolin Wardens up 5-0 against the Gladiators at only 8 minutes.
Man, this deficit in the jungle is now starting to get out of control. 9-7 up against Kiermi. And it's simple. Generate threat around the gold. Force a response. Bobby had done enough. Maybe it was a lack of communication there. Doesn't tell Kiermi that Leon is just running him down. Kiermi turns a corner into his death immediately. The damage follow-up just enough to send him to the grave. The Gilded Gladiator is not out of it, not by any stretch of the imagination. The gold has not ballooned too far out of control team-wide. It's generally just that jungle matchup that's really starting to hurt. 1,000 of the gold lead in Leon's pocket. And we're what? How much gold in pocket? Pretty far up, I'd have to say. Really close to finishing up that rage. Just about 100 more for him. After this speed, Leon's going to pick up his pace even further. Hard to say that, right, considering the breakneck pace he's established already. Head back to base, all of a sudden, 30% of the time, you're just hitting way harder.
I mean, generally, conversation around Mercury is, okay, once his rage is online, that's when the actual fighting starts. Once you go 3, maybe 4 items in, that's when we really start to see Mercury's get active. But Elion has flipped that script entirely. A very early gank to the mid lane, gets him first blood, immediately follows up with that by going to the dual lane to find yet another one. Elion has started this game off strong for his team. They've been rolling fairly well ever since. And that's given Tuba and Oceans a lot of room to breathe over in this dual lane. Remember, we talked about how Tuba was struggling in some of the earlier matchups in this week, not really having the performance that you would hope for out of this carry, but has made some change-ups to his god pool just in this tournament alone, going to this Chiron to deal with some of those backliners and kind of ignore the front line running at him.
Ignores the meta as well. He's just about the only one playing Chiron. These ability-based hunters with Transcendence in first slot. Likes to go towards Jotuns as well. Just clear waves, back up, use your ultimate to help out in the team fight. Not exactly one to lean in towards those auto attackers. DMB, the exact opposite mentality. Aussie in first slot, likely the Executioner in next. Means if it does come down to a boxing match, you're probably favoring the Ishtar. But Tuba's been playing passive all week. Why stop now?
Elion gonna get active on the solo lane.
He hits
maybe
hard.
About 7 minutes later than we would have thought. Dash will get the ultimate away from Scary D. So a little bit of safety removed from the Camazot solo. And now the Gladiators will pick up the Gold Fury with eyes to Elion on the right side. It's a call.
Can't do it.
To maybe start the objective, but with Joshi by, Tuba actually winning a matchup against Dude Man Bro, half HP on the Ishtar. And now with Elion rotating back over, could be a great start up through as Snoopy is targeted out. Gets to this guy just in time, but a big crit on landing. Puts him just under half HP. And Elion and Ocean's presence is enough to scare these Gladiators away from the Fury.
Snoop forced back to base, inbound, forced forward, pushed back into the team, isolated in the purple buff, will lose his life. Credit to the kill for Tuba. Back up to the Gold Fury, do it all again. You don't necessarily need to grab the objective, just force the Gladiators to respond. There is no response from the Gilded Gladiators. Scary D had started his rotation actually in that tier 1 mid tower, but decides without his support can't fight, and the Kaolin Wardens push their lead even further. It's not as if this is a composition from the Wardens that doesn't scale well either. Baba Yaga, just incredibly strong at stacking up, already has the Book of Thoth finished. Tablet of Destiny starting to get worked on as well. Bacchus gets tankier and tankier as the game goes on. Don't need to tell you what Mercury does. It's a whole lot of damage and a whole lot of crit in the late game. And with this expedited early, the Kaolin Wardens have set themselves up for success.
And Slash on this Nike. So far, 100% win rate in the games that he's been able to play this one through, and you can see a little bit wide. It's effectively nullified the Hunter of Doomambro. I mean, you throw up that barrier, what's Doomambro going to do up against it unless he wants to dedicate some of his CC to try and stop that one out? Joshy will go into the home sweet home in order to immune the freeze from inbound, but Joshy is W keying at 3 people, and all 3 of those will pay their respect to him and Oceans and back up towards tower line. Scary D's the only one who's really having any kind of remote fun for the side of the Gladiators, able to take down the first tower of the game over on his lane.
Scary D is not building tanky whatsoever. I thought it'd be Transcendence into maybe a Glad Shield second slot instead. Full eyes for damage. Jotun's in second.
Leon, he's got beads, will use it, and that's just that easy for Leon. A couple of crits, a major look to follow up, and a death on a Doomambro. An 0-4 dual lane to start out the game for the Gilded Gladiators, and a 4-0 Mercury for Leon to keep it going for the Wardens.
It's the reason Leon's only been allowed to play Mercury the once at this event, now twice in this game. It's just a different pick for this player. Allows him to play so aggressively on map. One that he has so much experience playing on and scales so well into the late game. I'm not certain that he's going to get it again. I know it's a bit early to put your eyes elsewhere into the event, but this has got to be the last performance on it. 7 out of 7 affected kills, 3-level lead over in the jungle, and already starting to stack up that rage. Deathbringer not too far behind it. Kirmi's playing the catch-up game. Just cannot have the same output as this Mercury. If the fight involves both junglers, you favor the Wardens every time.
If you're an Leon fan, you are celebrating right now. It's the success that he is bringing on this pick, and you're hoping that teams later on forget about it. If you're up and not rooting for Leon, you're hoping that every team remembers this game right here, and even the previous Mercury game going, maybe he never sees that pick again. Not sure if DMB actually spots Leon there. It seems that DMB is just concerned of the wave that's being pushed up to his tower by Tuba. A 2-level deficit, but Leon will walk right up. Focus on the tower, but that tower's doing a decent bit of damage to him so far, so no gank on a Doomambro, just consistently keeping him pushed back towards these fights.
Yeah, keeping the pressure up. It's been good for them so far. The Gilded Gladiators, though, at least find a small win on the right-hand side. Runic Bomb in the pocket of Kirmi. Means if you so choose, could start to group up, maybe look towards these structures. Tier 1 mid-tower, generally the first place we see that bomb used. Otherwise, Gold Fury, pretty decent. We've seen teams hold on to their bombs. Really helps out around the Fire Giant as well. Nobody really going to out-contest a double bomb drop for secure. So the Gilded Gladiators, they're equalizing a bit. The gold lead hasn't grown in the last 5 minutes. Been hovering around that 2K point for a good while now. But we're starting to hit some very critical power spikes. Deathbringer now finished up for Leon. Joshy finishes the Soul Gem. Oceans has become incredibly tanky with the Spirit Robe finished up too. So you got to think once this Fury respawns, it's going to be the Kaolin Wardens asking a difficult question. Are you willing to defend it?
Leon slamming away at Kirmi's health bar, but Scary Dude doing just the same. Leon forced out of this fight, and now Oceans maybe caught out of position as there are 4 members of the Gladiators standing by. Scary D, not sure what he was trying to do at the wall there, whether it was go for a jump or it looked like he just threw an ability. It felt like he just threw an ability in the wall, but did not stop the back of Leon. And now a man advantage for the Gladiators for only a moment. They got to use it now because Leon is back at full HP.
Scary D the hero has turned around the fight on his own. Now locks eyes with Joshy, dropped low.
Joshy, though, in the home sweet home, firing some damage right back at the Gladiators. The Dragons do a lot of damage to Joshy, but he'll be able to get back, resustain with the house, and go back to base as well. That will peter out the fight. Same for Oceans, but he's going to actually stop his back for a moment. The Gladiators are moving up towards the Fury.
Leon just hovering nearby with the Meiji look can poke out pretty severely here. And Slash with the initiation, gotta be something you're concerned about on the Gilded Gladiators. Goes in with the blink, locks down 2, immediately disengages. It's a careful dance between these two teams. Advantage certainly still belongs to the Wardens, and Leon seems to know it.
Leon walking up almost by himself. That's 400 damage to Kirmi right away. Oceans,
good start.
He's knocked up and pulled back in by Kirmi, but inbound is the one out of position, caught inside the purple buff, and not enough HP. Tuba low, has to dash away, but Kirmi and Scary go into the pit. Kirmi finds one, but he will trade his life out. Doomambro has used his escape for damage, and he will fall, but Scary D is putting out a ton of damage with his mid laner. It is only Leon left alive, but at critical HP, there's no way he can fight against Snoopy and Scary.
Scary doing so much for his team. It is a weight off the Gilded Gladiators once this Camazotz has rotated in towards his first team fight. Scary says, defense will not help me. I have to do the damage on my own, and does it in spades, completely separating the engagement, finding his priority targets, even sacrificing his allies to use them for HP pools. And the Gilded Gladiators just better off for it. Finally, find a bit of footing on the map, able to fight back ever so slightly and find themselves an objective as well. But they still haven't answered the biggest question. Who's dealing with El Leon? The Gilded Gladiators fought around him, ignored him. AoE damage collapses onto Mercury, forces him back. But next item, if history's any indicator, is Serrated Edge for the Mercury. That sustain will keep him in the fight a little bit longer, and then you really do have to figure out how you're going to kill him.
Now with the crits online as well between the Rage, fully stacked up, by the way, and a Deathbringer available for El Leon. A little bit harder for them to try and maybe deal with some of the crit damage coming through.
Okay.
But it's actually not towards the Serrated Edge right away for El Leon. Seems that he might be going towards Bloodforge instead. Gives him sustain nonetheless, but a little bit of extra movement speed to his kit.
It's a really smart adaptation and one I should have seen coming. There's no tank on the Gilded Gladiators. You're not worried about Bobby. And Scary D's full squish. Why do you need 20% penetration? You don't. So go for more power. Get yourself a passive that can keep you in the fight even longer. El Leon, I really do like what he's done here with this build. It's been serrated every single time he's played Mercury so far. Now, Bloodforge could really, really alleviate some of those issues I thought might pop up in the coming team fights. With that said, though, the Gilded Gladiators do now have 2 runic bombs in the pocket. And nobody on the Kaolin Wardens can challenge that level of secure. Doesn't necessarily need to be on the Fire Giant. Could push in towards these tier 1s, these tier 2s. Seems the Gladiators are playing with a bit of confidence now, and for the first time, with a bit of a lead.
And we saw what 2 runic bombs in the last set were able to do to just the Phoenix. A couple auto attacks, and both bombs dropped through, and the Phoenixes evaporated in just an instant. But with the game evened out, the Gilded Gladiators with a little more confidence now to move up. Tier 1 tower will not be necessary for one of the bomb charges, but Scary D lurking in the jungle could be dangerous for the Wardens. He was not dealt with in the last team fight. And there's no anti-heal to deal with all the sustain that Scary D has to his name as well. Not a Divine Ruin or a Brawler's Beatstick in sight. So it could be just a bunch of true sustain for Scary D that might just go unanswered in these next couple fights.
Fortunately for the Wardens, it's conditional sustain. It's really those passive pools that keep Camazotz available in these team fights. Vampiric Pat's, of course, good, but keep your eyes on his HP. Won't move too much here. It's about 15%. That's what, half an auto attack from El Leon? So long as Scary D is the first one out in the fight, maybe you're not so worried about looking at Brawler's Beatsticks or Pestilence or Contagion or anything along those lines. It's the Kaolin Wardens who are now starting to push their way forward on the right-hand side, trying to control the rotations of the Gilded Gladiators. If you can get eyes on everybody, it simplifies your approach into the Fire Giant pit. Gladiators, though, don't need to be concerned. They've actually got very good vision on the right-hand side. They'll realize if El Leon starts his rotation. They'll know when Joshy starts to work his way over towards the right as well.
Scary D and inbound doing their best to protect this tier 1 tower, and the Warden's unwilling to step up into the tier 1 to try and deal with that structure or remove it from the map. And it's just giving the Gladiators a lot of time to start their group up over the right side of the map. But remember, it's the Gladiators who do have 2 runic bombs in hand. If they want to try and get a counter push of their own, they can do just that. But El Leon is more focused on his own personal farm. Goes all the way to the left side, says, hey, if everybody's going to party in the right and nothing's going to happen, I might as well just go ahead and get my own farm up, get my own stuff stacked up.
Could be dangerous. Don't walk into this one, Leon. It's a 2v1. Lots of crit. Just make sure that vision doesn't go over to the Gilded Gladiators. Snoopy's a little bit more heads up there. The Dueling Dragons maybe forces out a relic from Leon instead. It's a reset back to neutral. Neither one of these teams wants to slip up, not when you're dancing on the knife's edge. So instead, play it safe, play it slow. Gilded Gladiators approach the Fire Giant first. Much easier to hold a defensive position than it is to fight into it, especially when you've got a strong kite composition. Difficult to fight into a Yu-Huang in general. Sit on the corner. The Kaolin Wardens will have to check it.
Leon charging ult. Snoopy half HP already before the fight has even really broke out. A pullback in on top of Slash, but El Leon has crashed through the back line. Massive damage coming from the jungler, but it's all been funneled right back into Elion. It's a double kill for Kirmi, one for Scary D, and it is all falling apart. The home sweet home will not protect Joshi any longer. Aegis does not buy him enough time, and Slash can only hold that barrier for so long before the jungler collapses in. An unofficial triple for Kirmi and 2 for Scary D.
Snoopy baits literally everybody on the Kaolin Wardens. Yu Huang, one of the safest mages, so good at kiting the enemies, does exactly that. Gets up to the Celestial Flight. An ultimate from Kirmi buys him even more time. Had the knockup connected from Slash on landing, maybe the Yu Huang falls fast enough, but instead, it's clean play from the Gilded Gladiators who force the Kaolin Wardens, who just seem antsy to take the engagement into a poor spot. And now the Gilded Gladiators, who I was almost ready to write off when this game started out 7-0 for the Kaolin Wardens, who put themselves in the winning position. 3 towers standing between the Chaos team and the Exposed Birds on the left-hand side, or should I say on the Order side. Base defense from the Kaolin Wardens, not weak, not by any stretch of the imagination. Baba Yaga, I think very good in situations like this. But considering how cleanly that team fight had gone for the Gilded Gladiators, they didn't have to use some critical resources. I'm talking about 3 of them. It's 3 bombs in pocket. That's a Phoenix on its own. If you want to keep them up, you can't let them in.
Few towers still left standing, though, for the Gladiators to knock down before they can work on those birds. Tier 2s in both left and mid, as well as the Tier 1 still standing. And the Bastions, but Bastions will fall pretty quickly with the damage output that the Gladiators have at this stage of the game. And they will take their time slowly over on this left side of the map. Push up the minion wave, get those towers going through. And it felt like Elion had a perfect line in that fight.
It's great.
I mean, he had a sonic boom that went through 3 people, got a couple of Aegis, a couple of beads, but as you mentioned, Snoopy playing one of the safest mages in the game just baits that Warden's team in. And unfortunately for Elion, before he can get any further damage off, he is CC'd out and tossed around before he falls to the dirt. Now, it's up to a defense for the Kaolin Wardens.
Left side bird hasn't taken any damage just yet. It's Oceans acting as a wall, but if you don't commit to the defense, you will lose the structure. Blink and you missed it. Left side Phoenix gone. Only cost them 1 of their bombs. The Gilded Gladiators still have plenty of resources in the tank, plenty of time to play with on this Fire Giant, resustaining for inbound slowly, but we'll get them there shortly. And look at the defensive positioning of the Gilded Gladiators. They do not want to fumble it here. Take the scenic route back towards mid. Stay stacked up. Don't want to get caught. Elion, this is his bread and butter. Loves to go for the flank.
See Ocean's going right away. Elion charging up that ultimate. He'll crash into the 2 assassins.
Where'd he go?
And he's taken one of them out. Kirmi is gone from the fight. And DMP now on the run with the rest of his squad. Slash finds the slow. Inbound should fall down to Elion here. That is a double kill for the jungler of the Kaolin Wardens. And a further charge up. But Elion does not have ult. Does not have his dash to keep going. Needs the rest of the team if they want to keep this push.
Leon's target selection in that fight, just perfect. Kirmi and Scary D, the threats on the back line stack up on top of each other. Inbound, Snoopy couldn't keep up, couldn't follow up. So Sonic Boom, sent for Peel, immediately erases Kirmi from the engagement. Scary D, fortunate, bat out of hell, still available, gets him out of there. But at what cost? It still is a successful siege. At the end of the day, you got the left side bird, the most valuable Phoenix on the map. But you gotta think the Gilded Gladiators, with how easily they were able to take that left side bird, would have liked to see a bit more there. Still holding on to 2 runic bombs, so they'll have further opportunities, but that's gotta be at the end of this Fire Giant power play.
Yeah, it's definitely only about 45 seconds left. Maybe a tier 2 tower at best for the Gladiators, but it seems that with only Scary D this far up by himself, big question mark, but no one on the Kaolin Wardens is going to step up to the Camazot's nearly full damage, only going for defense just now at the tail end of his build. A 4-0 and 4 for Scary. 4 kills each, or 4 for him and Kirmi both. It's the dual lane that's really been struggling in these team fights. Really feels like a lot of the damage has come from just the assassins of the Gladiators.
And so the answer that Leon devised of jumping onto the assassins, I think, probably true of the inverse as well. If the Gilded Gladiators can find Leon on these flanks, these solo agent plays where he's maneuvering the map on his own, you remove a massive portion, maybe the lion's share of the team fight from the Kaolin Wardens. It's a dangerous position he's in, but the Wardens facilitate it with these hyper-aggressive wards around the Fire Giant. Leon's got pathing for free, maybe send Scary D. If Scary D could just headhunt Leon, keep him out of the fight or poke him ever so slightly before the engagement starts, the rest of the Gilded Gladiators will just have so much more space to play with.
Well, speaking of Scary versus Elion,
It's close.
decent sustain for Scary D. Puts him about even with Elion, but a lot of sustain in the kit of Scary D. Bloodforge and Serrated picked up for Elion now. And a startup of the Fire Giant.
Look at the Titan.
For the Gilded Gladiators. That Titan is starting to get whittled away by the minions. Not much longer do the Wardens have to stick around and try and play around this Fire Giant. Someone's going to have to go back to base soon to try and deal with the damage. Inbound finds a stun on the Slash. Oceans gets pulled in from his own leap. Low in HP, but Elion has bursted through the front line. Inbound is gone. Joshi credit to the kill. And Scary D now trying to hunt for Elion. Will swoop to the backline, but only one of those hits does manage to find the Screech after. Scary D is low. One more shot would do it, but there's just no follow-up by the Kaolin Wardens.
Scary D is the hero that the Gilded Gladiators need once more. Pulls them back from the brink. If Elion disengages there, it's Fire Giant every single time. But back to base from Oceans should keep that left side Phoenix up. Not certain he can defend it on his own entirely. Actually keeps it within range of the Phoenix. Had he let the wave in towards his Titan, you're not nearly as worried about it. This could be a critical fumble from Oceans, unless Tuba bails him out. That was close. That's game-changing, legitimately, had Oceans cost him the bird there. But instead, it's a reset back to neutral. Only one more enhanced minion wave that Tuba needs to contend with. But with all that time spent, with two people having to dedicate it, it's the Gilded Gladiators on the fire, and it's going quick.
Slash and Josh, you're here. Scary D's health bar melting, but the Gladiators will grab the fire. Slash will be able to leap out and away from the opposition. Seems like Kiermi had already used his ult prior during that initial engagement to try and keep some zoning for the Fire Giant itself. So Gladiators now with all five, with fire on their waist and a weakened bird in the left side. That was the only siege they were able to get off their last Fire Giant. They should be able to take that one with little to no trouble unless somebody has a unfortunate square off with Elion.
Elion does seem to be what's keeping the Kaolin Wardens afloat as of now. The damage output from him and Joshi, incredible, but Leon, I think, a bit more impactful on his when he's applying that damage. Almost always a kill. Joshi very good at poking out in these team fights. No Runic Bomb available for the Gilded Gladiators this time, so not nearly as simple a siege as it could have been. Instead, had to use it to secure the objective, the Fire Giant, for themselves. On the waist of 5, you still have faith in them to be able to execute a siege on the left. It would take maybe 2, 3 auto attacks from DMB to secure it. It's not an enhanced Fire Giant, though. Backdoor protections. Still something you have to contend with, so play with your minion wave. Elion hovering. Doesn't want to show himself on the right-hand side. Instead, trying to poke from a distance. I believe has shown himself now. So the Gilded Gladiators, they've got time. If they can get into that Phoenix soon, they don't have to worry about the win condition for the Wardens.
Elion gonna head back to base now with all 5 of the Gladiators pushing up left. Josh able to find some quick poke up against inbound and Kiermi, and Elion charging that ultimate, waiting for an opportunity to be able to dive to the back line. But the Gladiators are paying a lot of respect to the Wardens. I mean, look how far back some of these players on the Gladiators have repositioned themselves after just Elion re-showing back up to the middle of this fight. Scary D gonna be the solo agent for this squad. We'll deal with the minions and head over towards mid to take down the tier 2 tower there. Won't stand for long. And now we'll have a 4 versus 1 split as we start going to the Phoenix defense.
Leon distracted by Scary D. The win conditions for both teams square off towards the center of the map. Slash decides to get involved as well. It's a slow push on the left, but it wouldn't take long with the bird to shut it down. And Ymir, so good on siege, could lock down entire paths.
Will find the freeze on to 2. Immediately, inbound has got to go for the ultimate, and a lot of damage thrown his way. But that's a Dueling Dragons now used by Snoopy. Not going to find the target that he was maybe hoping for that time around. Snoopy charging up that route. Will find Oceans, who will immediately walk right back through Elion to the back line. That is 2 instantly for the jungler of the Kaolin Wardens. Kiermi tries to box up against him, finds some good damage. Snoopy crashes back in, and that's enough to take him down. But Scary D has rejoined the fight. Oceans is gone. He needs to help out the rest of the team, and Kiermi has done so much to keep this one alive. Scary D finds the double slash, the only one alive against the 2 assassins, and he's able to jump back into the jungle With the weakened Phoenix, Scary D and Kirmi should be able to push down this bird.
Scary can stop Slash from backing. These are synced deaths from the Kaolin Wardens, and the minion wave is playing with Kirmi. He's got the damage to go for the Titan here. A TP from Slash will get him out, but the dot damage from Scary D shuts him down. TP's into his death, and Kirmi's got the Titan.
Kirmi, though, with only a couple of minions, and they aren't enhanced minions either from the fire.
Oh, it's
and
back.
with that cleave damage that comes from the Titan,
get in there.
Minions don't stand a chance. You got 12 seconds until Elion and Oceans are back. Scary D taking the long path in, so instead of going for the Titan, the two assassins will settle for the mid lane Phoenix. So now with two birds off the map, both assassins alive, the Gladiators will be able to back up and rest on the victory they've received.
It's a hard call to make, right? Go for the bird or try and attempt the win. But these fights are so back and forth. It is such a coin toss that I think it might have been worth the risk to try and attempt for the Titan. Scary D zoning on his own. The rest of the team on the Fire Giant burning. Scary D can no longer play defensively, has to back out without the ultimate, so instead rejoins his team. Two birds down, Fire Giant on 5 once more. This time enhanced, no backdoor protections to worry about. Pyromancer on the map means Runic Bomb simplifies your next siege as well. And the Gilded Gladiators have only got one more avenue to increase map state advantage. It's that right side bird, the only thing preventing a completely exposed base from the Kaolin Wardens. But I'm not so certain the Kaolin Wardens are feeling the threat of it. Elion knows now that if he just kills one more person, and it's a lot to put on one guy to get 3 from the enemies, but if he gets one more, that fight goes completely sideways for the Gilded Gladiators. I think, really, it's both now up to Leon and Scary D. It's a two-man game. If Scary D could stop Leon, great for the Glads. If Leon could do the same for Scary D, I think goes well for the Wardens. But maybe more onus on Leon. Has to be involved in the team fight. Needs to be there to shut down DMB. In the 4v4, the Kaolin Wardens have lost the majority of the engagements. Whereas Scary D, sure, in the early game it was all him in the fight, but now that the rest of his team is caught up a bit, 6 slot in the build, feels like they can do enough on their own so long as Leon isn't legitimately throat chopping them. It's a tough spot to be in, a hard call to make. And I don't envy these players to have to make it.
You even see Scary D has adapted to the crit that's been coming out from Elion, a spectral armor in the last slot to try and deal with some of that. But now the Gladiators push up to the right Phoenix, the only one left standing. Scary D trying to loop around the side of the fight as the Gladiators keep up their push. Some stray autos from DMB to try and poke out Slash, and he and Snoopy will do just that. Half HP nearly on the Nike, and Scary D hasn't even really joined this fight yet. Just been poking Elion from the side. And the right side Phoenix with no contest.
Ooh.
The Gilded Gladiators will grab that and an ultimate from Elion. Perfect for the Gladiators, and they don't lose anything for it.
But the Gilded Gladiators have still got a lot of work cut out for them. Actually have to get in towards that Titan room. Anyway, pushed up on left. Going to be a little while till that helps. Mid and right already starting to leak their way into the base. The Kaolin Wardens cannot allow the Gilded Gladiators in towards the Titan room. It will burn incredibly fast, especially that Runic Bomb still in the pocket of inbound. It's a very defensive positioning. Waiting on the cooldown. That Sonic Boom critical. I believe Leon may be frustrated with that poke Scary D put into him at the off rip from that fight. Had to get involved, wanted to make them pay for taking down that right side bird, but just could not quite find it.
Minutes ago, we were talking about how Scary and Kirmi both had 4 kills. Now 8-0 for Scary D as the Gladiators keep up their poke, but look at the return fire from Tuba up on the carries of the Gladiators. Both DMB and Snoopy have got to resustain themselves with Fire Giant, with whatever lifesteal may be in their builds. And now Scary D over to the left side bird. Disarmed by Slash, who jumps in up against 3. Frozen immediately on landing. Kirmi low. And Kirmi gone. Doesn't have any kind of damage immunity in the kit or in the build to stay alive. And the Gladiators have lost their jungler.
Time to retreat. Got to get out there. Can't get cut off by Leon. Sonic Boom coming up shortly. The Good Gladiators stay stacked up. Could fall back to the Primal Fury here. Fire Giant buff only had about 30 seconds left on it regardless. So reset back to neutral. But it's actually the Kaolin Wardens who come out ahead off that siege. It was left and mid Phoenix that were down. Right side was the only one remaining. Now it's left and mid up, only right side down. Easiest lane to defend while simultaneously playing for the fire. This slow play from the Gilded Gladiators, this inability to actually push in, starting to cost them greatly. The Kaolin Wardens starting to find their own equilibrium. Only need one more bird before they're back at an even map stake and start to approach the Fire Giant. I think even regardless, with Leon pushed up so far on left, might even commit himself to the split push. Be very difficult for the Gladiators to take this fire without a bit of fight back from the Wardens.
And when I talked to Josh in the pregame interview, I asked him, how do you feel about going against the Gladiators? They had a great early game,
On a Warden.
kind of sketchy late game. He said, we think we've got some weaknesses that we can exploit in the late game, and maybe this is what it is. Scary D out of position, flopped on, and
That's
dropped by the
massive.
potion toss of Joshi. Elion versus Snoopy and Kirmi is not going great for the Mercury, though. And that is a 1-for-1 trade, but DMB out of position. No relic to save his life. Tuba takes him out, but Kirmi finds another pull. That's 2 for the jungler of the Gladiators. And now Inbound is fighting back. Used his ultimate, and with Ocean's Low, a dueling dragons by Snoopy. The Gladiators have found 3 picks for 2.
3 for 2. Joshi and Slash still alive, hovering nearby. Fire Giant won't be easy to take down. Now with the 3 remaining members, Pyromancer's certainly an option. Kirmi starts it up for his team. And Slash has to hover. Needs to make sure that Fire Giant isn't pulled. These fights, ridiculous. Seems Leon and Scary D have fallen prey to the hero mentality, trying to make it happen on their own. Lose their lives early. This time, though, and it's something we talked about earlier, the 4v4 generally favors the Gilded Gladiators. They've just been executing on it a bit better. The Kaolin Wardens, always chasing the fight, Snoopy, always kiting, have caught out the majority of these engagements. On reset, it still is a time sink. The Kaolin Wardens benefiting from how long that fight had gone on. Right side bird, really only 2 more waves they need to worry about there, enhanced, before they found their complete equilibrium, before the base is completely restored. Good Gladiators, though, have slight map state advantage in that they should have control of vision on the right-hand side. The pit, completely under control of the Gilded Gladiators. The Fire Giant pulled out, and nobody from the Wardens stepping up.
Slash was there, but just can't step in. The Gilded Gladiators will get yet another enhanced Fire Giant, but the question is, what will they be able to do with it this time? All 3 Phoenixes are now back up on the side of the Kaolin Wardens. Right side weak, quite weak, even from just respawning through. And the mid and left have regenerated to nearly full of what they are able to do so on a respawn. It really feels like in these last couple of fights that Scary D and Elion, the ones trying to play the hero, may have forgotten that there are mages in the game, and we're fully 6 slotted, potions, elixirs, red buffs all kicking through. Snoopy and Joshi are slamming pretty hard at this point of the game.
Maybe Joshi a bit more than Snoopy. Top of the damage charts for the first time. Finally, it's Leon not benefiting on the left-hand side. Snoopy as well, right on his heels. Just 3,000 separating these 2. But it's the Gilded Gladiators with every bit of advantage still. Relics all available, potions in pocket. And maybe a Hail Mary here?
Goes for Snoopy, does Slash.
He's alone.
Inbound is going to keep Oceans through. Snoopy has nothing to deal with. He sustained as much as he can, but did literally nothing to slash his HP pool. And instead it is 3 for none for the Kaolin Wardens. Tuba was close to death, but not close enough. Scary D all the way to the right side of the fight. Not sure where he was during all of that, but the Kaolin Wardens benefit from it. Taking down 3 and now pushing up mid.
Scary wanted to split the map. That's all he wanted to do. Keep control of the Kaolin Wardens. His idea was, I'll push right. Leon's the only one that can answer me. We'll take the 4v4 on the left. But the Gilded Gladiators caught out too early. Snoopy separated completely. Now it's the Kaolin Wardens on the aggression.
30 seconds until the rest of the Gladiators are back up. It's just Scary D and Inbound to deal with them. But Scary D is trying to fight against Joshi, who is just not taking any damage. Inbound is gone. Scary D versus 5. There's not enough damage in the world for this Camazotz. And the Kaolin Wardens hold out once more. A strong start, a shaky mid, but a great way to end the game out. It's the Kaolin Wardens coming out on top for game number 1.
Emotions electric in the booth there. A ridiculous game pace. Starts early for Leon, does everything on the map. Eventually, Scary D joins the fray, completely changes the narrative of this match. It becomes a hero battle between these 2. And one slip up in the late, one overextension on the left-hand side